1. The Golden Era. 1982 was arguably the biggest year in wrestling history because that's when Vince McMahon purchased WWF from his father. At that time, wrestling was seen by most people just as a small-time attraction, which belonged in local shows or late-night television slots. But Vince didn't buy the company just to be average. He had something bigger in his mind. He wanted to transform the company into a national sensation and eventually a global phenomenon. To achieve that, Vince knew he needed a guy the world could believe in, someone who could be more than just a wrestler. That someone turned out to be Hulk Hogan. Already well known due to his role in Rocky III, Hulk Hogan had it all: physique, confidence, and raw energy. He was the kind of guy that the children could look up to as their hero, and the adults admired. After Vince hired him, WWF suddenly transformed into something much bigger. The entrance music, the ring gear, the interviews, all of it was designed to grab your attention and never let go. The likes of Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, and the Ultimate Warrior then followed suit, and they collectively turned wrestling into mainstream entertainment. In 1985, the company launched their biggest event, WrestleMania. It wasn't just an event, it was a cultural phenomenon where celebrities got involved and suddenly the whole country got watching. The craze was so intense that kids started dressing up as their heroes, had posters on their walls, and wrestling stories became part of the culture. 2. The New Generation Era. After almost a decade of dominance, the magic that once carried WWF through the Golden Era had started to fade. Hulk Hogan left the company in 1993 and joined their rival, WCW. Several other big names like Jake Roberts, The Ultimate Warrior, and Roddy Piper also followed suit, and suddenly WWF was in serious trouble. Their other superstars were aging out, and the newer fans were looking for something different. They no longer wanted to idolize the over-the-top characters who wrestled in cartoonish ways. Because of this, WWF began to quietly shift their focus. They didn't make any changes right away, but started leaning into a new generation of talent who were younger, more athletic, and far more technical inside the ring. The two wrestlers that took charge of this generation were Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Both were technically gifted and had mic skills like never seen before. Unlike the traditional wrestlers of the New Generation era, Shawn and Bret were giants with wild costumes. They were workhorses who could go toe-to-toe for 30 minutes and make every second count. Alongside them, names like Razor Ramon and Diesel added flair and swagger to the roster. While this era still had its share of oddball gimmicks, like a wrestling clown and a garbage man, it also began laying the foundation for what WWE would become in the future. Although the company struggled with ratings and WCW was starting to catch on, something important was happening behind the scenes. The next generation of talent, including Triple H, The Rock, and Steve Austin, were slowly finding their place. And of course, Bret vs. Shawn gave us some of the most memorable matches in history. 3. The Attitude Era. By the late 90s, WWF was losing the ratings war to WCW and needed a bold new direction. The old formula was no longer working, and fans had started to become uninterested. Hence, on December 15, 1997, Vince McMahon appeared on Monday Night Raw and declared that the era of saying your prayers and taking your vitamins was over. He announced a shift to a more adult, edgy product that would change wrestling forever. The main man behind this shift was Stone Cold Steve Austin, a rowdy, beer-drinking anti-hero who connected with fans on a whole different level. He never played by the rules, but that's what made him so popular. And when he beat the hell out of the villainous boss, Vince, he was elevated to legendary status. Alongside him was another megastar, The Rock, who quickly transformed from a struggling babyface to become the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. His charisma was unmatched, and his catchphrases quickly became every teenager's favorite thing to say. The Rock became so popular that he got offers for several movie roles, and when these two superstars, Stone Cold and The Rock, faced off against each other, the TV ratings went through the roof. But the best part was that WWF had more than just two megastars now. Mick Foley rose through the ranks, and he quickly became popular for his hardcore and extreme matches, like the infamous Hell in a Cell. Then there was DX, who were ridiculously edgy and made jokes that forced parents to immediately shut down the TV. And who can forget the creepy Ministry of Darkness, featuring The Undertaker and his minions. The Attitude Era is where all the gory, violent, and blood-soaked matches took place. The company also explored more adult themes, which quickly resonated with the audience. As WWF turned into a cultural phenomenon, the superstars became household names, and some of their iconic matches are still talked about to this date. 4. The Ruthless Aggression Era. Once the Monday Night Wars ended and WWE had bought WCW, there was a strange silence. For the first time in years, there was no real competition. The Attitude Era was over. The Rock had gone to Hollywood, and Austin was slowing down due to injuries. The company now needed something new to stay alive. On June 24, 2002, Raw kicked off with Vince McMahon announcing a new direction, where he called for ruthless aggression from his wrestlers. One guy took his words more seriously than others, and he was none other than John Cena. Cena had just started his career and wasn't a household name yet, but he had the presence. There was another guy, though, who burst onto the scene and was crowned as the World Heavyweight Champion just 6 months after his debut. It was the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. Fans had never seen anyone like him, as Brock could actually wrestle and was incredibly athletic for his size. He went on to headline SummerSlam 2002, where he beat The Rock clean. In the SmackDown faction, wrestlers like Edge, Kurt Angle, and Eddie Guerrero were cooking up great matches, while in Raw, Evolution was taking over. Led by Triple H, the group consisted of Ric Flair and Young Guns, Randy Orton, and Batista, both of whom went on to become global superstars. During this era, the matches got more intense and the stories were grittier. This was peak WWE, as they had a really deep roster with several superstars who could headline main events. SmackDown and Raw became completely separate brands, which allowed more talent to shine. And for the first time, the women's division began to feel more than just filler. 5. The PG Era. By mid-2008, WWE had to change its direction again to attract more sponsors, appeal to parents, and broaden its mainstream presence. That's when the PG era began, where the use of blood, profanity, and edgy content was completely removed. Although these were the ingredients for success in the previous eras, WWE decided to take a risk and develop something more corporate-friendly. Since the company had transcended beyond countries and religions, they wanted to make sure children from all over the world could watch their shows without their parents having to intervene. John Cena became the absolute face of this era, with his colorful shirts, clean-cut image, and never-give-up attitude. The younger generation started idolizing him in a way that was never seen before, and he quickly became a global sensation. However, there was also a large chunk of fans, especially the older ones, who despised this change, as they felt they were watching a comedy show. Nonetheless, this era still produced some interesting storylines and introduced new stars, even if it lacked the edge that defined earlier eras. Sheamus debuted and quickly became the WWE Champion. Alberto Del Rio went on to win the biggest Royal Rumble ever, and the Nexus obliterated everyone in their path. But it was the rise of CM Punk that injected fresh energy into the company, with his 2011 pipe bomb promo and subsequent feud with Cena at Money in the Bank, briefly reigniting the unpredictable spirit of older eras. The women's division began evolving, and the company launched NXT as a developmental brand that would eventually reshape WWE's future. Though often criticized for safe storytelling and overproduced segments, the PG era helped stabilize WWE as a publicly traded global brand. The company also focused on anti-bullying campaigns, and John Cena became the individual with the most Make-A-Wish grants in history. And who can forget, The Shield debuted in this era, paving the way for the next generation. 6. The Reality Era. Around 2014, fans started watching wrestling differently. It wasn't just about cheering the good guys or booing the bad ones anymore. People began reacting based on who actually earned it. They were tired of feeling like the company was choosing stars for them. They booed the hell out of babyfaces like John Cena and made it clear they wanted their own stars. That shift is what gave birth to the Reality Era, a time when the crowd played just as big a role as the wrestlers. The major catalyst behind this change was none other than Daniel Bryan. He wasn't tall, didn't have big muscles, and wasn't the most good-looking guy on the roster, but Bryan could wrestle like a maniac and put his heart and soul in the ring. When fans took notice of this, They immediately started rallying behind him. Even when WWE tried to push other stars, the audience refused to let go. Their energy eventually forced the company to change course. Daniel Bryan then headlined WrestleMania, where he first beat Triple H, then Batista and Randy Orton in a triple threat match to win both world titles. This wasn't just a win in the story, it felt like a real victory for the fans. But Bryan's victory wasn't the biggest headline in WrestleMania 30. It was Brock Lesnar defeating The Undertaker and ending his iconic streak, shocking everyone to the core. Brock would then go on to annihilate his opponents in the coming years. He beat John Cena clean several times and even became the WWE champion. For many fans, this was the end of John Cena's dominance in the company. The reality era also saw the breakup of S.H.I.E.L.D., the push for Roman Reigns, and the rebranding of NXT under Triple H's leadership. 7. The New Era. In early 2016, WWE knew it needed to make a statement. They wanted to give the spotlight to a completely fresh wave of talent who had proven themselves in places like NXT and around the world. They kickstarted it by bringing back the brand split, separating Raw and SmackDown with different rosters, championships, and stories. This allowed more wrestlers to get TV time and develop their characters. But the new era became popular for the rise in the women's division. WWE officially retired the term divas as they felt it was just glamorizing women. They instead chose the term female performers, aiming to give them equal spotlight as their male counterparts. Right after that change, WWE made history with the first ever female Hell in a Cell, Money in the Bank, and Royal Rumble matches. Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte Flair even headlined WrestleMania 35, something which was deemed impossible a few years ago. At the men's division, Roman Reigns continued to rise, even though many fans feel like he didn't deserve it. WWE also brought in a lot of foreign superstars like Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor. AJ Styles, who was already a legend at TNA, made a grand entrance at the Royal Rumble. During this time, pay-per-views had longer, more exciting matches, and wrestlers like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Seth Rollins brought a hard-hitting athletic style that fans had been craving. Meanwhile, NXT was on fire. It had become the place where future main eventers were being made. The crowds were passionate, and the matches felt like events. 8. The Renaissance Era. The Renaissance Era doesn't feel like a brand new chapter. It feels like the evolution of everything that came before it. It started to take shape around 2021, during a time when the world was still recovering from the pandemic, and WWE was going through changes both on and off screen. Then, in early 2023, WWE announced it was being acquired by TKO Holdings, the parent company of UFC. Vince McMahon also stepped down due to the sexual allegations, and Triple H was handed full responsibility of the storylines and matches. Roman Reigns was still the top dog in the company, and WWE engaged him in a long, grueling rivalry with Cody Rhodes. Most fans believed Cody wasn't cut out for it, but under Triple H's direction, the rivalry soon gained momentum, and it ended up being one of the greatest main events in WrestleMania history, where Cody won the Universal title. During the Renaissance era, Raw was moved to Netflix to cater to a wider audience. The company also brought in big names like IShowSpeed and Logan Paul to stay connected to a younger crowd. Finally, WWE has recently partnered up with other promotions like TNA and Pro Wrestling Noah, meaning cross-brand matches will soon become a thing.